Hi, I'm Bradley King. I'm co-writer and director of Time Lapse, which is playing at Fantasia right now.
And I'm B.P. Cooper, co-writer and producer of Time Lapse, and you are colliding with Yale Magazine.
Shots of our living room. What is this thing?
I think it's a camera.
No way. Mr. B invented a camera that takes pictures of the future.
The camera spits out a photo of us in the future. Then we go about our day making a series of decisions that lead up until that moment.
Think about how much money we could make.
Come on, run!
Yes!
This is just the start. Just smile and say goodbye to your day jobs, guys.
Who is this?
That's my bookie.
What is he doing in the apartment?
There's only one thing worse than a guy who can't make good on bets. And that's a guy who never loses bets.
Is he dangerous?
He's dangerous.
Did you tell him about the camera?
No.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna do what we should have done from the start, and I'm gonna destroy the machine.
Stop!
You're gonna write down the stats that go in the window tomorrow. Mark is gonna come by and pick up the photo for safety.
Wait a second.
I am not gonna repeat myself!
Doesn't look like something I would normally paint.
You're sending us a warning. Maybe something bad's about to happen.
You said we can change things, right? Everything happened for a reason.
I want 50%.
We obviously have no control over what's happening.
We're all in this. Kelly and I are sharing the risk. I'm just trying to make sure you're okay.
Do I look okay?
Can't afford to trust you.
As long as we see ourselves in that photo every day, we know we're alive tomorrow.
Help!
We're all friends, and we just need to trust that it's gonna be okay.
Basically, the movie's about three roommates who discover their old scientist neighbor dead, and in his apartment is a machine that takes pictures of the future. And then they try to use it for their benefit, but it's a thriller, so everything goes horribly wrong. And I think Cooper came up with the idea of the camera, and then I sort of like ran with it and came up with a lot of like the further sort of extensions of the idea. And we knew we wanted it to be a sci-fi cautionary tale. Like, I wouldn't say immediately we knew it was gonna have an unhappy ending, but we definitely thought, you know, it's about these people. Being obsessed with the future isn't always healthy. Sort of, yes.
I would say the camera was, the jumping off point was a movie called Timeline, Paul Walker, from the early 2000s. And in it, his father's a scientist, creates a time machine, and he goes in it and gets lost somewhere, and they're trying to find him. So they, in order to find out where he is, they actually put an actual camera, like a digital camera, in the time machine, send it back, they point it to the sky, and it takes a picture of the constellations, and they're able to tell based on that information where and when in time the dad disappeared to, and then they send in a team to go find him. But I thought that was cool, like a camera that is being used, just a normal camera being used to sort of relay information about time, and then that became, you know, well, what if that camera itself could see the past or see the future, and that's how the camera came about. And then the story, we just were inspired by a lot of thrillers that we like.
Rear Window,
Shallow Grave.
Yeah. You know. But we knew up front we were trying to do sort of a low-budget sci-fi movie. You know, we've written a lot of higher-budget scripts, and we needed something that we knew we could get the money for, and so, I don't know, that was definitely a containing parameter of our writing process.
What kind of budget did you have to work with?
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
I would say more than what most people consider indie, but definitely not what a lot of movies here or at any other festival get to play with.
Yeah.
You know? So it was tight.
The machine itself in Time Lapse has a very 50s era design or look to it. Was that the aesthetic in the script?
Yeah, we definitely, I think early on we knew we wanted it to be analog for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, obviously we didn't have the budget to do like a glowing nuclear reactor, you know, in this guy's apartment or whatever. But also practically, this thing had to be kind of lo-fi, so it didn't catch too much attention from the neighbors, and it couldn't make too much sound and have too much light. But yeah, I mean, I think I like sort of that analog aesthetic, you know, and so it was really clear, like, okay, there's no circuit boards, there's no, you know, LEDs, it should be like, you know, old school lights and tubes and wires, and I'm trying to think, where that might have come from. I grew up in Los Alamos, New Mexico, where like the Manhattan Project originated in the 50s, and granted the town has progressed, but there's definitely a lot of sort of old school science history there, and I think growing up, going to that science museum and just, I don't know, it's probably like percolated, I think.
Yeah. I think one of the first thoughts was steampunk.
Yeah.
To have it steampunky, but then we realized that the future that, the late 1800s version of the future, which steampunk sort of is born in, didn't exactly fit for this character. He's, kind of like you said, he's more 1940s, 50s technology, and that's sort of where he can create modern things from that. Right. And that's what he'd have laying around his apartment, I guess.
Yeah. And I know when I was working with the concept artist, we were referencing things like Fallout 3 as a game on Xbox 360, and it's probably my favorite video game ever. And it's like, if there was a sci-fi future that spawned out of the 50s, what would it look like, And it was, it's just, it's an aesthetic I dig.
Well, tell us about the casting. About how that came about.
Sure. Danielle, we had actually seen in a movie called Girls Against Boys at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and her performance blew us away, and we watched her in the Q&A afterwards. We were just very impressed by her, and we came back, and like a week later we started writing, and maybe about 5 days into the writing process, Bradley kind of burst into the office, and he's like, I have an idea, Danielle Panabaker for Callie, and I was like, I was thinking the same thing, and that was really nice then to have like a person in mind for that particular character, but at the same time we were like, the odds of us getting her, the odds of getting the person you want for the role are, on any movie, are very, very small. So, but we stuck to our guns on that one, and it ended up working out. And then Matt and George.
Yeah, the rest of the cast, we sort of, more traditionally like watched their material and met with them, and just talked about the characters, and that took a while longer, I would say, to find the right people for all the roles, but yeah, it worked out.
What was the one genre film as a kid that you couldn't get enough of? You had to watch it over and over again.
Okay, that's easy for me. The day, and I'm gonna date myself here, but the day that we rented our first VCR, like before you could buy them, we went to this VHS place and we rented a VCR.
For like $10 a day.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Top
$10
loader.
a night.
Yeah, totally. It was like a suitcase. Like on the front, you put it was crazy. And we rented Raiders of the Lost Ark, and up till that point, you couldn't watch movies whenever you wanted. Like they were either in the theater or maybe on cable at that point. I can't remember, but it was like you didn't have a choice as to how often you could watch it. And I no kidding, watched that movie. I mean, I put it in, watched it, rewound it, watched it again, and I just did that over and over again for like 2 days. Like I think I slept like 3 hours or something. I went and got my friend across the street, Casey Reeves, and we just watched that movie over and over and over and over again.
You just brought Casey into this. What if
I know, poor Casey. Yeah, sorry, Casey.
What if he's always denied his whole life that he likes that movie? I love that movie too, but mine would be Back to the Future. That's the first movie I remember seeing in the theater and leaving and wanting to know how they made it and like about movie making in general. But I also, another very, very distinct first memory in the theater would be Return of the Jedi. Because that one is lovely. And I was little.
That was crazy.
But I remember.
I remember sitting in the theater.
I thought Ewoks were the coolest thing ever.
Man.
Yeah, you watch it now as an adult and you're like, what was I thinking?
They're not that bad.
But they're not Jar Jar.
They're not Jar Jar. Yeah.
So
Ewoks, the Jar Jar. Yeah.
Ewoks were horrible.